Good afternoon. Yes, thank you very much, Tapiwa. I stand in for the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education in the Curriculum Development Unit section, where we develop the curriculum, the syllabi, everything that has to do with the education of our children. The Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, as you are aware, 2016 introduced a new curriculum. By then we called it a new curriculum, which is competence-based. This was actually based on the findings of the Nziramasanga Commission, which took place, and the report was produced in 2009. Among other things, the new curriculum framework that was produced was set to change the kind of education that was being that was being done in Zimbabwe. The new curriculum framework brought in a transformation in terms of what it offered for the children. Initially, when we were still under Cambridge, writing Cambridge examinations and so on, it was more of academic. The practical aspects are not taken into account, and the soft skills and talents that some of the children possessed were not taken into account. It was either you write your O-level, A-level, get your passes, and it just ends there. But with the new curriculum, we've ushered in a number of new learning areas, and these new learning areas actually embrace things like theater arts, visual performing arts, music and dance, and it is under theater arts that a lot has been done so that children can be exposed to different learning areas so that their talents can be realized. And as a ministry, we have come up with syllabi so that this is taught from primary school, secondary school, up to A-level, and then maybe if those who might have managed to take that career path proceed to tertiary education and do theater arts.
Okay, that's very interesting. First of all, to find that there's development in the curriculum. Maybe I'd like to put this to Mr. Muri. Are there any school initiatives, like university initiatives, that look since the advent of this new curriculum in primary and secondary, at the primary and secondary level, are there any initiatives that the university, starts to attract the people that, are coming from these, this new curriculum to come into a program at the university?
Okay, thank you very much. So the situation that is there at university level is that we work hand in hand with high school and primary schools, and I think as you have had the timelines, these programs have been introduced. They don't have 6-7 years, so it's still a process that is there, and I think there will be constant interaction between universities and high schools and primary schools as well, because I believe that for this industry to grow, we need to start at grassroots level, and I think this is what the ministry and the government are doing now, to say let's start at primary school level and then grow from there.
Okay, I'd like that you mentioned the grassroots level. Is there any sort of, I know for some universities, this is mostly international universities, I have seen a lot of international universities would come in, even, here in Zimbabwe hosts these massive open days where they're, talking to students in high school about the programs that they have. Is there something like that that's happening with the universities here in Zimbabwe, or specifically with Lipani, or is there, something similar? Yeah.
Oh yes, there are open days and also career days that we have, whereby sometimes students come to the university and then we talk to them, and then sometimes we go into the communities and into primary schools and high schools and talk to potential students about what we are offering and also the direction that we intend to take. And the current situation also at universities, I'm happy that the Ministry of Information gave licenses to, radio licenses to, I think, almost every university. And I know the University of Zimbabwe is now online, is now on air. And also I know Great Zimbabwe was the first university to go on air. And also yesterday I received news from Lupane that we are now on air as well. So there are efforts that are being made to make sure that also the learning environment, like you mentioned, is not only theoretical but also practical as well.
That's amazing. I think we should really give them a round of applause for having people, you know, these stations on air. Thank you so much. I think the more we have, you know, the rest of the country engaging with what students are doing in school, the more we can, you know, boost the perception of what a career in the arts can actually do. And I'd actually love to talk about that. The perception of the arts right now is, it's not very good. If a child, I'm very lucky that when I spoke to my mother, she quickly noticed that I'm very creative, and she told me, even if you want to be a dancer, I will totally, I will totally support you. But I know that's not the story with a lot of young people today. Parents want, I don't know how about you guys, but I know parents want their children to be either a doctor, engineer, or an accountant, or a lawyer. If you're none of those four, then what are you doing with your life? I don't know, is that how you guys have been experiencing life, or is it just me? Okay, so I'd love to find out maybe from you, Mr. Sibanda, how do we get, when we were having our conversation earlier, you did mention that you have, you know, the new curriculum takes theatre and arts, you know, performing arts very seriously. There are actually exams that need to be written, and I commend you for that because, again, we are in a very academic, like we are very centered in you know, intelligentsia and academics. So how, apart from or in addition to the exams that you have for, you know, for performing arts, is there any other way that we can, that you might think we might be able to boost or improve the perception of a career in the arts here in Zimbabwe?
Thank you for that question. Yes, as a ministry, it was found that it is very important that we catch them young. So right from the beginning, as they go for their ECD and so on, we have this VPA, Visual Performing Arts. The idea is to expose them to such learning areas so that those who are talented can take those routes. Now, as a ministry, in the new curriculum, we'd come up with festivals so that they showcase, the children can showcase their talents, and in so doing, the parents might as well see what will be taking place. Right now, as I speak, I think there is a gala, music gala at Prince Edward, where the children and the students there are showcasing different talents that they have, playing different music instruments, acting and doing all sorts of theater as there. So the whole idea is to actually expose these talents to the rest of the parents. I know in the past it was a bit tricky, you know, when you started playing music at school, you'll be told this is not the way to go. You must actually do your books only. But you see, these are some of the things that we want to demystify. To say if children have got certain talents, certain soft skills, let's pursue those skills so that they can realize their talents, and maybe in future or even in their life, they pursue such kind of things and then maybe develop a career. The syllabus that we have for theatre arts, VPA, music and dance and so on, actually touch on those things to lay foundation, to lay ground for these children so that they are aware of what they are doing, and it's not something that they'll just learn in the field, but right from the foundation, want them to know where to lead to and what they will realize after picking that kind of a career.
Okay. I also would like to touch on that. Like, there is, you know, the perception of, you know, a career in the arts is that you have to be talented and you have to have like a certain gift, like you have to be a singer or a writer or something of that nature. But I do know, being in the industry myself, that there are other skills, very hard skills, that need to be developed as well. For instance, organizational skills, like, putting together an event such as Zifft is it's not an easy task. So what is being done maybe by, like, are there programs in the universities where they target people who want to maybe specialize, say, in administration but for film, in law but for entertainment, things like that? Are there any such opportunities?
Sorry, maybe before he comes in,
Yeah.
you've touched on some of the things that we have. As a ministry, if we were to look at the syllabus that we have, some of the skills that she's talking about, we already start having these at primary, secondary, and even upper sixth. For example, when those who are doing theatre arts, if you look at the syllabus, it is the following topics: event planning and management, legal aspects of theatre arts, health and performance, ethics, practice and performance, and at A level, patent rights, litigation procedures, business of theatre. So you can actually see these are some of the things that are very important in this industry. People have to be aware when they get into the industry of performing arts, what they are going to come across. So already we are laying foundation at school level, so that by the time they get into this industry, they are already equipped. They have the basis. So all they have to do when they go for tertiary education is to expand on the information that they already have. Just like any other education or schooling that takes place, by the time you go to university, you'll have laid foundation at primary and secondary school. So this is what we are doing for performing arts as a ministry.
That is so lovely. Thank you so much. I mean, I don't mean to be hyping it up too much, because, again, my experience was not very positive, but I am so very glad to find that there are hardcore changes, let's say, that are being made. So how do you carry that forward at university level?
Okay, thank you. I'll talk about it in terms of how we need to standardize things. I think with the help of the ministry, that is being done, whereby we have like a set career path. You get from this stage to that stage, and then from here to there. But that can only work if we standardize things. I've heard you talking about arts administration. Arts administration, it's there at university level. I know some universities offer it at master's level, and then during your undergrad you have various courses that are related to that. But I'm sure there is need for us to offer these as degree programs, not part of one program. For example, I know in universities there is film, television, and media studies, for example. I think those are more like 3 fields that are compressed into one program. But I'm sure as time goes on, as interest grows, and then also if this standardization process is a success, we're going to have a purely film program, a purely TV program, and then also media studies on its own, and also have arts administration on its own. And also, I think if we have constant interaction with the Department of Law, they can also offer that as well, something related to media and law.
Okay, yes, because definitely things can get very dodgy when it comes to, the law and artists. I don't know if you guys know, there's almost every other day there's an artist complaining that they don't like their contract, that they don't like, or 10 years later we know what happened, like with Dave Chappelle back in the day when he had his Chappelle show, but he couldn't, he couldn't show it anymore because I think Comedy Central owned the rights. I don't know, don't quote me, but that was a whole thing, and then he had to go through a very lengthy legal battle, and sometimes just like a silent war with them to make sure that he gets back, the rights for his creations. So I do believe that these are departments that are very important, and this is something that we can help prepare at least the artists here in Zimbabwe, that they won't have to struggle with such with such challenges and such legal problems. So I would like to try and open it up to the floor. Is there anyone with any questions, any comments for our panelists pertaining to the discussion? What has been your experience at school for those that are studying right now? Yeah. Is there anyone with a question? Yes.
You need me to stand?
Whatever is comfortable with you.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Mr. Sibanda. I'm very grateful for the new curriculum. Sorry, my name is Nyaradzo Mchena. I'm a filmmaker, and I chair an organization called the Zimbabwe Film Industry Development Platform. We have within our structure a subcommittee on standards and training. So I'm speaking as an artist, one who deals with the arts on a policy level, and also as a parent. The new curriculum, it's great that we have these all these subjects which have been brought in, and attention being given to VPA, for instance. I've sat with my daughter during her VPA assignments and the colors and all this, and really I'm afraid, I know you get a lot of criticism on the new curriculum, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to add to that right now. As much as I appreciate the new curriculum, I don't know, as an artist who is a parent, how to guide my daughter when I see the textbook saying things which I consider to be wrong as a professional. So my question to begin with is, were artists involved in the creation of the curriculum, and then in the process of writing the textbooks and reviewing them? How did that go? How did we end up with what we have now? And attached to that is, how were teachers prepared for the new curriculum? Did you get artists to train the teachers? We have an exercise we did with the National Manpower Advisory Council in creating what they called guidelines on, they weren't called guidelines, they were referred to as occupational profiles. Yes. Were those used in the creation of the new curriculum? What was the interface between industry and the curriculum development? Okay.
Well, thank you very much for a whole lot of questions. And thank you very much for
just two. Were artists involved in the creation of the syllabus, and were teachers trained for the new subjects that were brought in?
Okay, thank you very much for also bringing or noting that the new curriculum has brought in a lot of changes. As for the artists participating in the development of the syllabi for the new curriculum, you know, when new things are coming into the system, there are a lot of teething problems around. Zimbabwe National Arts Council was actually part of the developers of the curriculum, as they were invited to be part of those who were developing the curriculum. So maybe it will be a question of maybe the National Art Council inviting different stakeholders from its side to take part in the development of the curriculum. I want to believe that when the syllabus were put in place, those people were there. As for the materials themselves, yes, it is a bit of a challenge that we have people writing to the requirements of the syllabus. So we find that most of the teachers, they need in-servicing, they need training. But here we have something that was supposed to be maybe unfolded for a long period of time. Talk of C8, the report was produced in 2009, and only to be implemented 2016, of course, after taking into consideration other developments that had taken place from 2009 to 2016. So we had to go back again and come up with a narrative report to give us direction as to the latest in terms of those new learning areas that were being introduced. But unfortunately, like I said, it might take a lot of time. However, we had only a short period of time to implement these things because they said recommendations delayed. So when we started the new curriculum, it was like we had to rush to bring in some of these things because it's not very easy for people to accept change, particularly change in education. Because when that comes in, it brings about a whole lot of transformation or a whole lot of new things and so on. Yes, the idea of color really is to bring in the idea of formative evaluation, continuous assessment, rather than just wait up to the end of the year and people write summative examinations. The idea was to bring in something that will actually show the skills that will have been developed by the syllabi. That's the idea of bringing in color. It's unfortunate that maybe we are not having it being done to the letter. But maybe with trainings that are coming and reviews that are coming, I think we are going to take a lot of suggestions that are coming in so that we come up with something that will be user-friendly. Because right now I know people are groaning about the colors and so on. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up to that, thank you so much, Nyarazo, for that question. You did mention that there are trainings and reviews coming up. Does that include people that are in the industry? Are they being hands-on with what's going with the curriculum and these trainings and reviews that are going on? Because I think what Nyarazo was touching on was that there is a wide gap, perhaps in between what's in the curriculum and what is actually practiced, in the industry on a day-to-day basis. So to bridge that gap, I would assume that you would then involve artists who are already in the space to maybe be part of these reviews and part of these trainings.
Okay, thank you very much. Currently, as we implement this new curriculum, the artists, like you are saying, for those who are already embarking on the new curriculum, doing VPA and so on, they have room to invite artists as resource people to come and help. Because currently most of our teachers were not trained in some of these new learning areas that are coming in. I think you are quite aware we have this visual performing arts, PE, mass display and so on. The teachers' colleges are supposed to be now churning out teachers who are trained in those areas. Because right now we are trying to align the curriculum that is being offered in the school and the curriculum that is being offered in teachers training colleges and universities so that we produce the right personnel so that when we actually embark on the teaching of these new areas, we'll be having the right personnel. But right now, like I was saying, there are teething problems when you are starting something that is new. Yes, there is indeed a gap because when this was ushered in, not most of our teachers were well conversant with VPA, with arts and so on. So the room is there for them to invite resource people to come and help.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question? Okay, so we'll go with you, we'll then go to you, and then lastly you. Oh,
okay, after hearing his question, it just made me curious because I still remember what you were saying, that parents really look down upon the arts. And I'm an example. I used to like drawing when I was a kid, right? But the minute my parents saw me drawing, they're like, no, this is useless. You're not going to get anywhere with that. So my first question would be, with the new curriculum, right? Because after what you said, it sounds like a curriculum was made, but you just took everyone as a whole, the IT people, everyone, and like, this is the standard that should work for everyone. Can it compete on an international basis so that if a young kid wants to get a certificate or a diploma, right, they can say that, no, this art certificate can compete on that platform so that parents can also accept that curriculum? Is there going to be like an opening for the artists so that they can explain what they want and how they can compete internationally? Because there's not a lot of certificates here in Zimbabwe that compete internationally. I mean, here you have City and Guilds for the secretaries, and it's acknowledged in a lot of places. But if you've got your Zimset certificate or a lot of the degrees here, you go outside the country, you have to study again or take extra courses. So are you going to open up a system whereby you can talk to the artist and then create a certificate that can be acknowledged, like on an international basis or something, so that even the parents themselves can accept kids who want to be in the arts industry?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it's a good question, but unfortunately at this juncture, I cannot talk about that one since it's a policy issue, because you're talking of ZIMSEC being the examination board in our country, which is responsible for the examinations in our schools. So they are the people maybe who have that mandate to come up with something that will be acceptable in the world. But I want to believe that they are affiliated to other international bodies of examination boards. And like I said, we are bringing in new learning areas and so on. So now that will be coming for reviews and so on, I think your sentiments can also be aired or brought in, so that as we plan forward, we bring these things into the forum. Thank you.
Okay, next question. Please do state your name and yeah, and then you get into your question. She was next, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Melissa Spanda from LSU, Lupane State University. So my question is directed to the Minister of Education, right? We have heard and seen the changes that have been made by the Minister of Education in terms of the introduction of the new curriculum. But as a university student, studying and learning through theories is a bit hard. As the Minister of Education, what have you done to ensure that the students are equipped with enough skills that are required in the arts industry? Besides the licenses that were mentioned, the radio licenses, what has the Minister of Education done to ensure that students are equipped with enough skills in terms of financial support and etc.?
Thank you. Well, I don't know what I can say about financial support. But as a ministry, like I said when I started, our mandate is to produce the syllabi. The syllabi is the sum total of what the teacher will be teaching in the classroom. The whole idea behind the new curriculum, bringing everyone on board, was to make sure that we take on board the development of those skills, the competencies. Actually, we refer to the new curriculum as the competence-based curriculum. The idea is to make sure that they realize the skills that they have. Hence the idea of introducing these new learning areas like theater arts, VPA, music and dance at an early age. The idea is to realize, to find out what they possess. So we have a profiling system that accompanies the assessment that is supposed to be taking place. The whole idea is to identify these talents, nurture these talents, so that when these kids proceed to tertiary education, they already have a career path that they choose. And we want to believe that when they go for tertiary education, more and more is going to be added in breadth and depth in terms of that career that they will have chosen. So as a ministry, we are really laying the foundation by exposing our children to such kind of learning areas, because before we did not have these. If they were there, they were just done for fun or for enjoyment. But this time we are saying you can have a career in this area. And we are really laying the foundation, the basics for them to acquire as they proceed to tertiary education. Thank you.
All right. Because of time, I'm going to have to take the last two questions, first from him and then from the lady at the back. Please do state your name and what you do.
Hi, I'm Colin. I'm a filmmaker, and I'm also a scholar. So my question is to do with both the Ministry of Primary, Secondary, and as well as one for Mr. Mori. In regards to Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, I saw some of the pretexts in the new curriculum. They were too colorful, like ceramics, mosaics, filmmaking, photography, theater, mass parades, and all those things that are stated in the new curriculum, of which they're not really practical. The the mandate of the new curriculum is to create something which is practical. Then they approach it with an impractical approach by putting things that they can't do. So you have fake teachers, people who are teaching what they don't do. Ethics in a way. Because a person just says ceramics or mosaics, they don't even know what it is. And one of the things is that the people who are teaching, like what Zoe was saying, where did you get them? Because the funny thing is we actually have people who did theater arts. I have a lot of friends who did theater arts whom I lived with, who are just sitting at home doing nothing. But they can as well as go in schools and teach. There are things which are simple to implement even in terms of theater, like black box theater. Right? It's very simple to implement, but you don't have it being implemented in schools. And yet the government say that they have like theater arts and that they have got photography and stuff like that. But we have people who have actually learned from universities. Like University of Zimbabwe closed their theater arts department because they are saying it was no longer relevant. So it means they have tons of graduates with that degree, but they are sitting at home. What's government's position in terms of recruiting those people into education? As well as you mentioned about people at Polytechnic, trying to say that you are training teachers. So you're going to have a teacher who teaches English, and then you're going to teach them a bit of theater. Why not just take a person who knows theater and then put them in a school, and then they teach VPA, because you already know what's like needed there. So it's a big challenge in terms of having people who really know what they do in schools, because government is always trying to multitask, trying to get a men's teacher to also teach dancing. I don't see the practicality with that. Then when we go to the aspect of universities, that's where maybe I can comment more, because I also did a film and theater program at a university in Zimbabwe. So the challenge is that I got to learn in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and then there's a big difference in that in Zimbabwe now, the teachers influence the marking scheme, the curriculum, because the person who teaches you is the one that marks, of which when you're in South Africa, the person who teaches for you only marks 30%, and then the other 30% comes from industrial critics and 30% from your audiences, because it becomes practical learning, because it really affects the people where you're going to use your skill. In Zimbabwe now, you have teachers mainly not really implementing that, because there was even a time whereby you would be given the questions for you to go and answer an exam. It's not a pass and go kind of thing, not really something which is really practical. Because we have two challenges. We have degrees which are called film and theater studies, and then we have maybe for use it, we have HFRTP, which is production, which is film, television, and radio production, which is more practical. But then you have that being writing exams in those fields. When you're like in South Africa, when you're in those fields, you don't write exams. It's practicals from day one till you graduate. Which is why you find that Netflix sponsored people to study in South Africa rather than Zimbabwe. But we already know that in terms of education, Zimbabwe has always been king in most fields. But when it comes to film and stuff, we are behind a lot of countries. So I wanted to ask in relation to say, in like what you had said, like the standardization, how much have you guys pushed in terms of trying to change those approaches, and especially to do with the way in which the pedagogy is approached? Yeah.
Thank you very much for a lengthy and elaborate message to put across to the ministry. Yes, just like I said, we are bringing in the competence-based curriculum, which is commonly known as the new curriculum. It's a process. It's not an event. It cannot just happen overnight. Yes, in schools we had teachers who had trained to teach English, to teach maths, and so on. But here we are introducing new learning areas. That means we have to make sure that our curriculum now is also in tandem with the training that is taking place in the teachers' colleges. Right now, as I speak, I think we have tried to align our curriculum with the teachers' college curriculum, so that we actually have teachers being trained just to teach VPA, just to teach PE. I think with PE, we have quite a number of teachers that have come in, and also to teach theater arts and so on. Those are the people who just stand in to teach those learning areas. Like a new thing, it cannot just overnight change. But I want to believe that since this is the first cycle of this competence-based curriculum, as time goes on, I want to believe that there will be changes that are going to be seen. Remember, we are saying no one should be left behind. So if you keep on being theoretical without even involving those with practical skills, we have left others behind. So the new curriculum is bringing in the idea of making sure that every talent, every child is exposed, and every child will get what he is and what she is intended to get in terms of education. So as a ministry, I think we are still in the beginning of this implementation of this cycle of the new curriculum. I want to believe that when we go to the second cycle, we'll be able to take on board most of the things that you have mentioned. Thank you.
Yeah, and also maybe to add on and respond to what you have mentioned, it's true, the concerns that you have raised, and I think personally I would call upon the government to invest more in terms of infrastructure. I always give an example of medical students. They come for part one. At second year, they're already going to Pari, for example, because Pariranyatwa is a teaching hospital. UBH in Bulawayo it's also a teaching hospital. But with our students, we do not have such infrastructure in our own field, whereby we can say we've got these TV studios that produce films already in the industry, whereby students come in and then they start interacting with that environment as early as, let's say first year or second year. So I think I also call upon the government to start investing in such. I think it makes it easier and it makes it also more practical.
All right, thank you so much for those responses, and thank you for all your questions. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so if you do, I don't know, will you be staying a little longer so people can interact with you and ask you more questions? Please do so. That will be available. You can have one-on-one chats with them after this. I think you can also share with them, your details if they're able to send in any suggestions or any questions that they might have to your respective platforms. I think that would be awesome. Okay, one more round of applause for our panelists, Mr. Shiri and Mr. Sibanda. All right, thank you so much. My name is Tapiwa again. See you in the next talk.